Yo, what's up boys, and welcome back to yet another video. This one is going to be talking about a brand new survival game, which a few of you guys might have heard of already. It's called The Day Before. If you haven't heard of it, then this video is going to be talking about everything there is to know about it, why I believe it is too good to be true, a scam potentially, something like that. As always, I hope I'm wrong, because ultimately if this game does deliver on its promises, then that works out better for me. Then I've got an amazing game to play regularly. But as with pretty much every video game these days, because of past disappointments, I'm very, very skeptical, very pessimistic, and yeah, we're gonna be talking about that today. A few of you guys have asked me to share my opinion on the game, so that's what this video is for. I'll have all three of the main gameplay videos we've shown so far in the background. I'll also have a link to them in the description, but if you don't know what this game is, I mean, I've already said it's a survival game, but I'll just read out the Steam description. It says, The Day Before is an open-world MMO survival set in a deadly post-pandemic America overrun by flesh-hungry infected and survivors killing each other for food, weapons, and cars. You wake up alone in a world you no longer remember, setting out to find answers and the resources to survive. If you guys have been playing games for a while, you'll know this is essentially a pipe dream that a lot of developers have promised or at least alluded to, this idea of a big open world with zombies and you gotta survive. There's been games which have tried and failed to do that, such as H1Z1 made by Sony Online Entertainment. We ended up literally shutting down that game. Dead Linger, which was a random Kickstarter game admittedly. Dead Matter, you could say, which was another random Kickstarter game. Survivor Nights maybe is another example of a Kickstarter game which just didn't quite hit the spot with this open world zombie survival game kind of idea. But The Day Before actually does more than any of these games I've just listed, because it seems to be more confident in itself and have bolder claims than any of these games we've ever seen before. Obviously, looking at this gameplay in the background right now, it looks amazing. Having an open world zombie survival game with a bunch of players, a bunch of zombies, with graphics like this would be incredible. It even clearly is running above 30 FPS. It's running at 60 FPS right here. Two of the four games I mentioned a second ago, Dead Matter and Survivor Nights, are both early access, and they are still a work in progress. They could end up being impressive, but from early gameplay experience on both of these, I feel like they might end up following the same path as the two cancelled games, H1Z1 and The Dead Linger. The reason I say this game is promising more is because it uses the big MMO word. And I guess some people can have different opinions on what exactly an MMO is, but most of these survival games avoid using that word for a reason. Making a survival game with a lot of players and a lot of zombies as hard as is, never mind bringing it to the next level and claiming it is an MMO, which would imply more than 100 or 200 players. We haven't talked about how many players we expect right now, but there's got to be some kind of sacrifice with a game, whether it's a more instanced game or a more linear game, but from what we see, it's just an open world. Even games like DayZ and Dead Matter, they don't claim for MMOs. In fact, the main game I can think of, which was a zombie survival MMO, was H1Z1, which had so much funding and was a complete disappointment and ultimately was cancelled. But yeah, going back to the gameplay itself, like I said, graphics looking awesome. The actual animations and movement and the zombies don't look great, but we don't even know when this game's coming out right now, so we'll give them a pass, I guess, for that one. Overall, looks good. And I guess if you don't know about the games in the past which have tried to do this or promised to do this and have ended up disappointing in terms of a pipe dream of open world zombie survival games, and you don't know the technical hardships that you need to go through to make a game like this a reality, then this game ticks all the boxes. When can I buy it? Is it coming to console? So many questions, so much hype revolving around this game right now. But as with anything in life, if it sounds too good to be true, it normally is. Normally, if something does sound too good to be true, say for example, someone's offering me $5,000 to play their game, I work out who is actually making this claim. Why should I believe them? Are they trustworthy? So I would look at who the hell is developing and publishing The Day Before. Let's start off with probably the most important of those two. Who are the developers behind this game? Well, they are called FNTSTIC. They are based in Russia, of all places, and they have actually made one game which I do recognize the name of. Its name is The Wild 8. But if we look at their full catalog, they have 3 games in total which they've released, with The Day Before being their 4th game, which they would be developing since their existence. Technically, the game for earliest date is Dead Dozen. It was not actually the first game they made. The first game they made was The Wild 8, which had an early access state back in 2016. But we'll look at this game first. This is a trailer you can see in the background. Again, they released this in 2018, just 3 years ago. It doesn't look terrible, but much like The Day Before, animation's looking a bit weird. This game, much like its name, is completely dead. It was abandoned by the developers. They apparently run out of money. I can show you this news article right here. They said they were going to continue developing once we found more funding or something, which is a bit of a weird statement considering they are now releasing this really, really optimistic game, but are still abandoning this game, which was their second title. I might be getting this story a bit mixed up. I'm just viewing it from an outsider looking in. I didn't play the game, but that's what it looks like to me. The game has mixed reviews, and people on the Steam community discussion seem to think it was abandoned. So yeah, somewhat of a red flag maybe, but I guess take it with a grain of salt. The weird thing I see as well is the latest news article is about updating the game, and actually finding them talking about abandoning this game, I had to search on the internet for some random website which had this picture of the budget for Dead Dozen. It's just weird. It's weird. And how did we go from this to a groundbreaking MMO zombie survival game? I don't really know. I mean, overall, the game doesn't look terrible, don't get me wrong. It actually looks like it would be maybe decent fun with a bunch of friends. This developer on the Discord said that they actually lost all the profit from the Wild 8, which was their biggest game, by making this game. I mean, it only had 100 players at its peak, so I can understand that they did run out of money while developing it. But my question is, how did it scale up from what I assume single-digit developer numbers? I only see 3 online on the Discord right now. And now they're making this massive game with, according to their LinkedIn page, 50 to 200 people working on it. It just seems like they have a bit of a rocky past, so I don't know who is throwing all this money at them. To be honest, I don't believe they have 50 to 200 people working on it, but I'll talk about that a bit more in a few seconds. A few people have called me out in the past for my pessimistic or negative outlooks on a lot of these games, but I'd say for the most part, I've been right if I've been negative or pessimistic with a game. I'm okay to be wrong. For example, EFT, I was very pessimistic with. It ended up turning out to be a great game. Ultimately, my negative opinions didn't, hold that game back from reaching its full potential, and the same applies to these games as well. I'm simply just looking at the facts and trying to work it out in my head if it's too good to be true, and it is. It just is. I hope that FNTSTIC can prove me wrong, I really do. I mentioned it at the start, but it's better for me to have a game I can play over and over again on my YouTube channel, on my Twitch channel, and have a bunch of fun, than me making a few videos saying, this game looks a bit suspicious. It would make me more money. It would make me more happy. It works in my favor if the game isn't a scam or does fulfill its promises. But I'm just looking at it using logic, okay? Some people get angry at my logic. I did the same thing with Dead Matter. I said it could suck because what they're trying to do is pretty optimistic. And right now it is still kind of sucking, and it's still NDA'd. And the reality is, it's a lot easier to make a few minutes of reacting to a game and say, wow, this looks amazing, than me actually looking into the history of these guys and think about it in my head and come up with thoughts and processes in my head which make sense, which I can then relay to you guys. It's a lot easier, my point is, to be positive than it is to be negative. I don't want to be negative, but I've got to play devil's avocado here. I do like avocados after all. If we actually look at the company website for FNTSTIC, we can see that this game, as I was talking about, Dead Dozen, is not listed there. So I guess they just stopped pretending it never existed, but ultimately they had hopes and goals for that game, and people clearly feel like they abandoned them. But at this point, it's just hearsay. So again, take it with a grain of salt. The second game is an isometric, low-poly game called Radiant One. It looks okay. It's got mostly positive reviews. I guess ultimately here they didn't abandon it. It has no one playing it on Steam right now, but it looks pretty cool, honestly. We'll just skip over that one really quickly. We don't really care. The most important one, which I think a few of you guys might have heard of before, I've heard good things about it. I actually own it on Steam for some reason. It's called The Wild 8. And this game, although it has overall mostly positive reviews, its recent reviews are mixed. And if we look again at the company website, we can see that this game, The Wild 8, was actually sold to publishers Hype Train Digital for some reason. So again, take of this what you will, but I'd say that isn't really the best outcome ever for them to just sell the first successful game they ever made to some other publishers who ended up publishing it to console, which is I guess why they did that. But since then, there hasn't been any updates. But I don't know, maybe again, it's a complete game. Maybe Dead Dozen's a complete game too. I don't know. I don't think so though. And the reason this game has mixed reviews too is because it hasn't really had an update in about 2 years. In fact, the newest news post that they've posted was them talking about a new release from their friends, in quotations, which is for a game called Breath Edge, which looks like a cool space game. I've heard about this one before as well. But if we actually look at the publishers for this one, it's actually been published by Hype Train Digital. Obviously, advertising your other games you're publishing on a game which you also own the rights to is okay. But these guys, on October the 3rd of 2019, for the Wild 8 1.0 release, said this on their news post, saying, but after that, what awaits for Wild 8 in the future? Only time will tell. And it also says it's been a long, tough road, but it's just a single step in the game's history. Again, this is October 3rd, 2019. I think I just said that date correctly. And their final update was on the 19th of October 2019. So if you can't do the maths there, 16 days after they said, who knows what the future is, but this is just the first step in the future for Wild 8, for the Wild 8, they just stopped developing it. I don't know. It's, again, they bought the rights to this, so I guess it isn't necessarily on FNTSTIC, but it's just not really helping my hopes for this optimistic, super optimistic game. Just want to reiterate that. This is really hard what they're doing right here, or trying to. Just to confirm as well, but this idea of abandoning these games, I guess it's up for debate. Like I said, I didn't play the first game I was talking about called Dead Dozen. I haven't played the game called Wild 8, so whether it's been abandoned or not, I guess that's really up to your personal opinion, and you'd have to play that game and to understand what the developers have or haven't said about their ideas for the games. Ultimately, neither of the two are in early access, so yeah, you could say that they were simply games which they developed to the fullest extent, and that's it. But the Wild 8 did, at its peak, have 1,000 players on it a few times. I'm sure there was some more potential to squeeze out of that one. But if you guys have played those two games, let me know in the comments if you have any opinions on them, I guess. But ultimately, in terms of FNTSTIC's track record, I'd say it isn't great. It's not terrible. You know, we don't have to be that concerned. But the fact that we sold one of their games and abandoned one of their games because they ran out of money or something, but then they found money, but then didn't continue developing it, I don't know, it's just kind of not ideal, to be honest. But even if we ignore the past track record with FNTSTIC, which again is not terrible, it's just not great, I would still be super skeptical on this game. But throughout the past, I think a month and a half, we've been releasing these regular images, these regular videos. I guess if we just keep on doing that, maybe we can start developing some kind of new faith in the developers. Regardless, the track record of a developer or publisher should be taken into account. It's really the only thing we can base the expectations of this amazing dream of a game the day before on. Also, the fact that they use a stock image on their company website on the Who We Are page is a bit weird, to be honest. As you'll see later on in this video, they allegedly have 51 to 200 people working at their company. So surely, I understand, you know, obviously we're living in the corona times and stuff, but I just don't think it's really play of a game to use a stock image if you've got an actual company with actual human beings. But that's just my opinion. Maybe you guys don't see anything wrong with that, but in my opinion, it's just odd, considering we've been a company since 2015, from what I can read online. Let's take a quick break from doing this investigative journalism of the day before developers past and just talk about the game itself. Let's say what we think about the game itself. Like I said, it is promising this pipe dream of a game, big open world, zombie survival. Like I said, there's a lot of zombie survival fans out there. Really all I and many other people want, well, not really, as if it's not much of an ask, but you just want a big open world with barricading, with some kind of direction. You just want a zombie survival simulator. It's not very hard to kind of theory craft exactly what people would like in one of these games, and the idea of it being a massively multiplayer online, massive open world set in urban dense cities and massive sprawling country lands, it's not like very hard to just think of what you'd want out of one of these games in your head. And ultimately, a lot of games have tried and failed in many aspects. I guess the main one which we'd look at, I'm not saying the game is bad, but DayZ, although it has made some great progress in the 8 years it's been in development now by Bohemia. And Bohemia had a lot of money to throw into DayZ in case that wasn't already obvious. I would say they have slightly abandoned that game as well, or at least in terms of like kind of dialing back the development. They aren't going to be adding a lot of the features. They were hoping like planes and helicopters and boats. It doesn't seem like those things are ever going to be added. It's more so just slow new weapons being added and all that kind of stuff. As decent as the game is, though, the cars still do this. My point is, it's very easy to sell someone on this idea. You just need to tell them what they want to hear. But actually creating this is a lot harder. And I think a lot of people don't think about how hard of a task that is to make. There's a reason we haven't seen like AAA developers, other than I guess Bohemia, going in and trying to make a game like this. But Bohemia were, you know, there at the forefront when the DayZ mod first popped off. So they were there since the start of things, really. They got movers advantage. But you don't really see developers going into this field and trying to make a game out of it. But networking all of this stuff up with this massive world, vehicles, all these players, all of this AI, and making it work is the really, really hard part. Making it work in a single player or co-op game like Left 4 Dead or Dying Light or World War Z, you'll see some very impressive zombies in all those games, but you gotta understand, those aren't MMOs. They pretend to look like an open world, but ultimately they're relatively linear levels where you shoot hordes of zombies with up to 4 of your friends. Or in Dying Light, mostly chop up the zombies, not shoot them. Just understand the networking task that you have to undertake to have a massive world like this with safe zones in it and all this kind of stuff, and quests, which the developers have already talked about in an interview with IGN. It's very, very hard to do that. You don't just like click a button and all of a sudden it just works on multiplayer. It requires some serious talent in creating these systems to work so that way they don't melt when, let's say, 50 players end up getting a bit too close, or let's say a bunch of zombie hordes are in a very small area. You need some serious talent, some serious time, some meaty servers, or some serious innovation, and I'm just not so sure about that one right now. Again, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We've seen the same cycle with, as a recent example, which I mentioned earlier, Edma is shown some relatively impressive videos showing off their development. And I'd say the main impressive thing of that game is the gun design. It looks good, all the animations and stuff. It's really smooth and all that kind of stuff. But that was just them primarily showing on a single player instance, them running around and shooting zombies. And it worked. But all of a sudden, you make that a multiplayer and put even 10 people on a server of Deadma, and all of a sudden, it looks really, really, really janky and really buggy and really desyncy. And that's only like 10 players. Obviously, the Deadma, is still under NDA, so I can't go into extreme detail. I can't share my gameplay experiences with you guys, but there's a reason it's under NDA. It's because it's not ready for public consumption. So do I believe for a second these random developers from Russia who have a relatively wonky past record are capable of somehow doing better than everyone else on the planet? Not really. Are these guys human? Probably. They can't work 50 hours a day, unfortunately. I don't think time travel's been invented in Russia. And as far as we can tell, although they may have some talent, I'd say their games look pretty decent, and I guess they do what they say they do on the tin. They are not capable, I'd say, of creating this genre-defining, groundbreaking MMO survival game. If we go ahead and look back at the developers, because, you know, we've had enough break talking about the game and why it just seems too good to be true, let's have a look at their LinkedIn. Although this doesn't say everything, I did some Googling and stuff. And if we look at LinkedIn, it says that they are based in Yakutsk, which is in Russia. I probably mispronounced that. It's really cold over there, in case you didn't know. It's like the coldest country in the world, or coldest city in the world. But regardless, it says on here that we have 51 to 200 employees, but at the same time, for some reason, we only have 3 of those connected to their business page on LinkedIn, which doesn't necessarily mean we don't exist, but ultimately, I also realize I say ultimately way too much. I'm sorry, I need to stop doing that. I'll work on it, man. Ultimately, they... yeah, if you're a serious professional, you're going to want to link your LinkedIn account to your current and past employers, so that way you can build up a portfolio. A bit of a comparison right there with Battlestate, which are also located in Russia/Ukraine. They have 70 people attached with the same amount of employee estimate. Maybe we just don't use LinkedIn that much in Russia, and primarily for all Russian developers. Maybe that's what's going on. I'm just looking at stuff I found on Google. Thanks, Google. If we look at the Wild 8's Kickstarter, which raised $60,000 back in 2016, we can see at that time they had 9 developers working on that title. And they blew all of their profit they made from a Wild 8 on their other game, Dead Dozen, as we established earlier. So I don't know where this 50 to 200 numbers coming from. Maybe it was copied and pasted or something. I don't really know, but I would really like to know how many people are working on this game. Legit, you know, if you're watching this, fantastic, which you're not, let me know. But you're not, so it doesn't really matter. But how many people are working on the game? You know, what are you guys gonna do a Kickstarter? Is that where we're going? Like with Wild 8? Maybe. Ugh. I feel like yeah. But yeah, looking at this right now, this could be Raw 2.0. If we ignore the survival space and think about roleplay games that have promised and haven't delivered, we can think of Identity, which raised over $1 million and also had a very successful Kickstarter. They've abandoned that game and hasn't been updated in like a year and a half. It's not playable. It's not even worth me talking about, even though people have asked me to go back to it. There's just nothing there, like legitimately. Just a really... I might be wrong, I don't think I am, but just a scam. They wasted all the money. Yeah, I don't know. And then also you've got the other roleplay game, Raw. Raw was a Kickstarter game, which I think raised about $200,000, which was past their goal, and it ended up getting cancelled by Kickstarter because they were breaching Kickstarter's terms of service, luckily. Otherwise, I do honestly believe that game would have had the same fate. The Raw Kickstarter was over a year ago now, and we haven't heard anything about their Indiegogo campaign they said they were going to be making. Also, if we do look at the publisher of this game, MyToner. They have 500 to 1,000 employees. We have 252 of them connected to a LinkedIn, which, you know, that seems legit. You have to actually make an account and connect it. So yeah, we'll assume they do indeed have that many employees. And they are also based in Yakutsk or something. Interestingly, they haven't actually published a single game on Steam, and all of the games they have published in the past are mobile games, which apparently have way too many ads on them. So yeah, the publishers are really entering a new space here. I guess they're making them their publisher because they speak their native tongue. They literally live in the same city that FNTSTIC apparently live in, which I have no reason to believe they would lie about that. They probably do live there, at least however many devs there is working on a game, you know, like 9 of them. 50 to 200, I don't know about that one. You probably live there. So yeah, they're working together on this game, and yeah, I wish them many good luck and have fun. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else to say on this one. This video's, it's way too long at this point. Anyway, as always, I would love to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section below. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I know it's not devil's avocado. That was a joke earlier that I made about probably like 30 minutes ago, knowing how long this video is. But hopefully you can see why I have concerns with some of the points I've raised. And as I mentioned earlier as well, I also have an issue with repeating points and making videos way too long. But as I said earlier as well, even ignoring these somewhat red flag kind of facts, I'd still not believe it until I see it. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And if they do make a Kickstarter, I'll back it and I'll play whenever it comes out. But yeah, if it is a Kickstarter, that's a yikes, to be honest, because that's like the best way, I'd say, probably to scam people with a game like this, is to promise the world with a Kickstarter, get that money, and then deliver something just kind of shit. But we'll see where it goes. We'll keep track of this one. If you guys would like me to keep making update videos on this game, let me know in the comment section below. Make sure to drop a like, and I'll try to do that in the future. But if you honestly don't give a single fuck, then that's understandable too. Fantastic. Good luck. You guys have a lovely day. Check out the videos in the description if you want to watch the cringy voice acting that we did. Very The Division-esque. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.